I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who has been on a tremendous personal journey with us and knows very well many of the challenges experienced by residents in Walker. She now volunteers for us, using her wealth of skills and experience to support fellow residents, embodying the Lifting Neighbourhoods model in all she does without any expectation of reward. It now gives me very great pleasure to introduce Rachael Wallace Lapper to the stage.
Okay. Well, you know my name's Rachel. Thank you. But in normal circumstances, there's nothing that would induce me to get up in here in front of all of these people. But L&T really is that extraordinary. So here I am, and I warn you now, I'm really well known for going off on a one, so I'm going to try and keep to my notes, but give me a bit leeway. Okay, so I'm going to start by talking about Walker. Now, I've lived in Walker for 4 years now, and I now love Walker. I don't understand all the bad press and all the bad feeling about it, because I'm wildly enthusiastic about Walker. I wouldn't live anywhere else, and because as I say, what's not to like about Walker? You know, if you just look on the Walker Community Facebook page, it'll illustrate the community cohesion and the willingness to support one another. And I saw a post the other day which some guy had written. He says, "I'm from Shields originally, and can I just say that the amount of people that help each other out around here is nothing short of amazing. What a great bunch of people you really are. Big up, Walker." Yeah. But however, Walker is incredibly deprived in terms of income, education, employment and training, health, the environment, crime, which isn't nearly as bad as the Chronicle would have you believe, but still. Walker is the most deprived area in Newcastle, and Walker deserves so much more. There's a distinct lack of local services, that's a fact. They may be there, but they're not visible. And that's where Lifting Neighbourhoods Together comes in. We are a one-stop shop for Walker residents, and we are unique in that we offer advice and support on absolutely anything and everything, and we're under one roof. And it works, and I know that, and I can stand here and I can say that, because prior to my volunteering, I was supported by Lifting Neighbourhoods through one of the most turbulent and difficult times in my life. I'm not standing here as a poster girl for L&T, well, I am to some extent, perhaps a more mature poster girl, but because I'd also like you to be aware that I don't share my story unless I deem it's relevant. And I'm choosing to do that today, some aspects of my past, because I am living proof that L&T really works, and when it works really, really well. So there was a lot going on and a lot going wrong for me when I first walked into Treetops. It's fair to say that I'd hit rock bottom. To give you some background, immediately prior to moving to Walker, I'd been homeless for a couple of months. I was after fleeing domestic violence, and I'd only slept rough a couple of nights. It was July, so it wasn't too bad. It took me a bit back to Glastonbury circa 1990. But I was incredibly lucky because I then sofa surfed. And then my dad found out, my dad installed me in a little B&B, and then I finally got rehoused. But after over 2 years later, I'd still not really settled. I was living in the same house I'm in now. I was still at risk for my ex-husband and his family, to the point where my adult children couldn't actually come and visit me at home because the risk to them was so high. I had police, the busies, as they were known in the local dialect, constantly at my front door, which isn't a good look for Walker or anywhere. I was physically really unwell, and my mental health had hit an all-time low. And I should point out here that my background is actually supporting people, so whether it be as a probation officer, in support accommodation, housing support. So I should technically have been able to access all the services and the support that I needed, but I couldn't, I was stuck. And whether that's because I just didn't know where to turn to. I mean, I knew Newcastle quite well, but I hadn't lived in Newcastle for a long time, and I knew Walker a bit, but not really. So I was petrified, to be honest, most of the time. I did have cameras fitted, and I had door alarms and all of this, but I just sat there. And my life as I'd known it, my job, my career, I was a homeowner, that went down the Swanee, and my marriage, and it had just all disappeared in a very short space of time and under really appalling circumstances. And this is a salutary tale, because it can and does happen to anyone. So any support workers out there, please bear in mind, you don't judge a book by its cover. I know I don't need to say that, but... And then came the pandemic. So this is where I go off on this is a plan me going on for one, because I really need to big up Walker's fantastic social prescribing navigator service. I think Jane and Natalie are here today. Yola can't be, I don't think Karen is. but you don't get the credit you deserve. And I'm just grabbing the opportunity to say a huge thank you for working in tandem with us at L&T and for the amazing support you offer our community members. So my social prescriber and my sole source of support, which was during what my kids call the doom time, was Dominic. He rang me when he said he would. He persisted even when I was shouting and crying and swearing at him on the phone. And he got me onto the Freedom Programme, which is run in Walker by Building Futures East at our main office, and it's facilitated by the fantastic Dawn and Lynn. And that was a game changer for me, but then there was another incident of domestic abuse. And by this point I was absolutely desperate. So I texted Dawn and she brought me to meet Andrew and Claire, and hey, look at me now, hey. But you know something? I looked back and I realised, and it was Andrew who did my holistic conversation, which I didn't know she was doing at the time, that all the other issues around me were really, I could put them to one side, because I was like, really, I was dying of loneliness. And then, you know, I've said it, the L word. No one likes talking about being lonely, but we should talk about being lonely, because did you know that being lonely can increase your risk of overall death by 26%? Or that studies show that also that the economic and well-being cost of severe loneliness per person is equivalent to almost £10,000 a year. But this is where lifting neighbourhoods together excels, because we do combat loneliness, and that's evidenced throughout our films, but we do loads of other really great things, and we do them really, really well. If it's safe and legal, we'll do it. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but that's my ethos. So on to a bit, you know, the bit like boring bit for some people, but it's we're building back better after the pandemic and through the cost of living crisis. L&T recognises that social capital is crucial to community health and well-being, and we're rethinking social and community connections. We are excelling at raising self-esteem, confidence and reducing loneliness, which is a bit of an obsession with me, as is my next pet project, which I'm just going to support people in the Walker area to register to vote. And hopefully I'm going to solve Walker's housing crisis. But because I'm fortunate enough to volunteer for an organisation that has allowed me and allowed all the other volunteers to make the role our own, I've got to credit L&T's holistic approach to supporting individuals, because they do deeply listen, they connect people to the support they need, they build on people's strengths, and they're there for as long as it takes. And I want you please to remember that L&T Walker only has 2 members of staff, and that's Andrew and Claire, and you are extraordinary. I know I talk for the whole community when I say we cannot thank you enough for what you have done for us as individuals and for the people of Walker. So big up, guys. Now, I can say this because I've experienced both sides of the coin, so I can state unequivocally that what Andrew and Claire provide and what the volunteers provide, it works. When I first came to Treetops, I was at the point of abandoning my home, despite the fact I had nowhere else to go. I only went out over cover of darkness to walk my support dog that my friend had given to me, because my ex had stole my other dog. I'd cut myself off from my family, my self-care had gone to pot, I was being financially abused again, and I'd given up. I did also feel I'd been passed from pillar to post previously in terms of support. For example, I had 3 different domestic violence workers in the space of about 7 months. I had no input from victim support at all. I don't know how many police officers across 2 forces were coming to visit me, but I couldn't believe that the police don't share information across forces, which of course makes things even more difficult. But L&T, despite me being quite dubious about even going in to meet Andrew and Claire, L&T really does what it says on the tin, and that's really unusual in itself. There's no pretension, there's no like fannying on or whatever, there's no hurry, and it's a safe space always, and you will always get that amazing welcome. I'm still a work in progress, and that's okay, because this is where L&T does differ from every other support service. They're with you as long as it takes. But it doesn't create dependency, it creates empowerment. So once I started to find myself and get a bit more confidence, I wanted to join in. So I initially offered to write some bits and pieces for like the blurb and stuff like that online and things, because in another century I was a journalist for a while. I was also a water ski instructor, but there's not much use for that in Walker. But this is where L&T, if I went to Andrew and Claire and said, hey, just see if anyone else fancies water skiing, they'd support us to set up a water skiing group. I'm going to stop now, I'm going off. So anyway, so I wrote some blurb for offline, and I popped in to drink tea and consume my own weight in biscuits, which I do all the time. And Andrew mentioned that door knocking and talking to the community had like highlighted there's a high demand for advice around benefits and financial inclusion in the area. So I'm quite good at navigating the benefit system. for which I must thank Claire Fish and Active Inclusion and my manager Suzanne Halliwell, who's on our panel. They gave me excellent training over the past years, which I've been able to put to very good use, because as a team, the other day I know that we've topped the £200,000 income generation mark for the people in Walker, which is like, I've got to thank Kerry Phillips over there, who now works alongside me delivering the benefits advice. And we're also supported by the lovely Emma Donaldson and also Jess Asquith from YHN. So thanks, guys. It's made a huge difference, because I can now voice PIP forms and that onto you. But we don't just churn out endless benefit applications and grant applications, because what we do and what we aim to do is we empower the community members, because we involve them every step of the way. So we demystify the DWP systems, which is a thankless and endless task, but we do it, and we increase claimants' confidence. So the idea is people in future don't need to come and see me, or don't need to come and see Kerry or Emma, because they know how to do it themselves, and they can pass on that knowledge. In terms of footfall, our Monday drop-in has been a resounding success, and also in terms of income generation, but I don't want you to lose sight of the other outcomes, which are equally, if not more important, but you can't really quantify them. So how do you, for example, say how much the incredible difference Claire has made in terms of supporting community members to improve their health? I mean, it must be millions. Millions by now. Yeah, and there's lots of people like me and Jane. I promise I'll stop smoking again soon, Claire. You know, our unique selling point, if you like, is that we're different because we have the support you need under one roof, or we can find that support for you, and it's not just on a Monday afternoon. It's all the time, and it does really work, because we enable the community as individuals in the whole to identify what they want to change, what they want to happen, and then we just provide the means, the tools, and the ongoing support to do it. And it's really taken off people. We've got community groups run by community members and now self-governing, such as Walk the Warriors is a really good example. So my fellow volunteer, Kerry over there, another Kerry, had identified the need in Walker for support around problematic alcohol misuse. There's a lot of that goes on. So Andrew and Claire introduced Kerry to me, because I'd mentioned something similar. And that was it. Walker Warriors was up and running really quickly, and that was simply because, as a group, and as the founding members of the group, we were supported all the way by Andrew and Claire. So I'm going to shamelessly plug Walker Warriors here, because I'm really, really proud of it. Anyone can come along. Some of us are drinking, some of us are abstinent, some of us are drinking more than others. But and we meet weekly, and anyone can come. It's inclusive. But what's really taken off is our WhatsApp group. So because, as you'll know, addiction doesn't keep office hours. So it's really helpful at the weekends and at night time, and sometimes you have to turn off those notifications when someone's been down the pub, to have someone to talk to and, have feedback, and that there's always someone there for them. So I know for me personally, the support and understanding on offer can and has made a hugely positive difference to my life and to those of many other people. So I expect you've gathered by now that I not only love Walk, I love volunteering with LNT. So someone mentioned to me the other day that I'm a bit of an overzealous mad convert type person, simply because LNT rescued me at the worst time of my life. Yes, I am an overzealous mad convert type person, but that's because LNT didn't rescue me. They supported me to rescue myself, and that's the important difference. If that makes me a mad convert, then beware, because there's a lot of us, given we had over 300 people turn up at our last community event, all of whom are hugely enthusiastic. Ant and Claire, you're really doing something right, and it's very clear you're doing something right. I know what it's like to feel disregarded, disempowered, and disenfranchised. I've met a lot of people who are in Walker who feel that way, but then, like me, they come to LNT. We need to remember what it actually stands for: lifting neighbourhoods together. And the team, and I count everybody, all the volunteers, not just Claire and Andrew, are responsible for us all, but every single person who walks through the doors of Treetops and sits and stays and talks to us, we are all a team. We are a team as a community, and we are a team of individuals. We're really reaping the benefits of accessing what's rapidly proving itself to be this city's outstanding support service. And I can say that because for the past 2 decades, I've either worked with, or been a service user of most of Newcastle City's support services. So I do feel I've got 2 decades worth of that. That's not that right. Main point. Over the last 18 months, I've met so many incredible people, and I've surprised myself by making real friends, ones to actually meet for dog walks and to go out with, or meet for a cuppa, or just go into the office to chat with. And that's pretty bloody good going for someone with PTSD, and I credit LNT with that for supporting me through that, and particularly my mental health. We forged great links with partnership and statutory agencies. We'll continue to do so because we want community members to freely access as extensive a range of support as possible. I've got personal reasons to say huge thanks to Pottery Bank, to Heather, to Scottish Sheila from Community Renewal, to Money Advice North East, to Epics Linda Nelson, and my fave, Helen Pearson from NCC. Thank you very much for everything you've done for me personally and for the community. And now I'm going to finish by I'm going to go off on a bizarre tangent and I'm going to quote my favourite Nicki Minaj lyrics. I like to make me look like I'm down with the kids, but I've not really. I've got young grandchildren. But I came to win, to survive, to prosper, to thrive. And to me, that sums up what LNT has enabled me to do, what it's doing for other community members, a lot of them, and what it's doing for Walker as a whole. Thank you.